Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I was on YouTube and I saw a video by a YouTuber that I'm subscribed to, and his video was about Christelyn Karazin. So I said, let me check out her channel to see what's going on with her, to see what's up. And I saw that she did a recent video about Tariq Nasheed. And that video is entitled Tariq Nasheed Exposed by Christelyn Karazin, Hidden Colors versus Swirling. When I saw the video, the first thing that I thought about is, why is she doing this video now? She was talking about some commentary that Tariq Nasheed did about some statements that she made surrounding the Charleston massacre. Now that happened a while ago. And I was just wondering, why are you bringing this up now? Why are you doing a video about this issue now? So that's a question that I'm still curious about. I didn't really get an answer just from watching her video. But it seems like she's just lashing out at this man and trying to undermine him and criticize him. So I'm going to do this brief little analysis of her video. The first thing I'll say is this. I think that the bulk of her video was about deflection, and it was about trying to discredit this man instead of dealing with some of the arguments that he made. Now, she did try to address them. She touched on some of the points. But I don't think she really got to the essence of why that video was so important, why that segment was so important, and why people criticized her for what she said. So let me give you the story. So here we have a situation where white supremacists, a white racist, a white terrorist goes into a black church in Charleston, South Carolina. He sits with the congregation, he prays with the congregation. He's there for like an hour as the service is going on. And at some point, this man takes out guns and starts shooting people and killing people. And while he's killing people, he says something about how he's tired of black men raping white women. And that's part of his motivation, I assume. But he kills these people. He kills men and women, black men and women. So after this tragedy occurs, instead of talking about racism, instead of talking about this horrific event, commenting on the state of race relations in this country, talking about the tragedy and talking about hate crimes, instead of doing all of that, this woman, Christelyn Karazin, goes out of her way to do everything in her power to preserve her hustle by telling black women that now is not the time to abandon the white man, essentially. And then she goes on to give these white men advice on how to talk to black women about racial issues, all for the sake of preserving these interracial relationships. That was this woman's priority. And even worse than that, this woman wondered out loud why this killer, Dylan Roof, didn't just kill black men. She says, well, if your motivation is to kill men who are raping white women, why did you kill black women as well? That tells you in so many ways, in so many subtle ways, like the level of hatred this woman has for black men. This is obviously a white supremacist. These people don't make any distinctions between black men and black women. They hate black people. They hate us all. They don't care anything about our damn gender wars on YouTube or these issues between black men and women. They don't make those distinctions when dealing with black people. They see us all as subhuman. Our lives mean nothing to these people. That's why this man could get in this church and just indiscriminately kill black people. But yet this woman wonders out loud why this man didn't just kill black men. To me, that is sick. That is pathological. And that is part of the reason why people are so critical of this woman. That's why. And that reminds me of another point that I'm going to make in this video. Just going to write it down while the thought is on my head. So this woman cannot really deal with that aspect of her video and how troubling that is. How troubling it is that this woman, just like a good loyal house Negro slave, is so concerned about maintaining relations with the damn slave master that she's willing to just gloss over the tragedy and just mention it in passing. Much like how she did with that Madison Amelia situation. Gloss over all the racist shit that this man had said about black people. Gloss over that. Walk past that. Talk about it for a second, but keep it moving and talking about other things that don't have anything to do with the racism. It's the core issue. But that's the problem. The problem is this woman's contempt for black men. The problem is her constant defense of white men and doing everything in her power to maintain these interracial relationships so that she can keep the money flowing. Just like a typical hustler. But in this video, she did a feeble attempt to defend her ridiculous and absurd comments. And she spent the bulk of the video trying to discredit Tariq Nasheed. And, you know, I just want to say off the top, all those points that she made about Tariq Nasheed don't deal with the core issue that he raised in that video. Most of the points don't deal with that issue. They're just efforts to discredit the messenger. They're just efforts to essentially do an ad hominem attack, to poison the well so that no one can take Tariq Nasheed seriously. So I want to get that out the way. Now that that's out of the way, now that we dealt with the whole issue of just her video and, you know, the ridiculous content of that video, and I'm talking about the video that she did on Charleston, South Carolina. Now that that's out the way, let's deal with some of the things that she said about Tariq Nasheed. Many of her points about Tariq Nasheed are valid. And I know some people don't want to hear this because some people idolize this man. For some people, he is their leader. He's like their false idol that they worship. He is like a god to some of these people. And when you question their false god, these people become outraged. These people lash out instead of realizing that all men are fallible, that all people are subject to criticism and analysis. And that includes people like Tariq Nasheed. Now, I'm going to just respond to other arguments that this woman made throughout the video. She called Tariq Nasheed out for his misogyny against black women. And I think that that's a valid point. Here's a man who professed to be a pimp at one point. He was on a documentary with Michael Moore, the director, talking about how he used to be a pimp and bragging about how he wrote Mac lessons and, you know, these books about Macking and all that kind of stuff. I will include a link in the description box so that you can watch that brief little interview that he does with Michael Moore where he's bragging about being a pimp. And this man has put out all these books and done all these videos talking about how to manipulate and hustle women and all that kind of stuff. Books and videos that are disrespectful to women. Books and videos that promote misogyny. And you can't have black power when you oppress black women, when you support the exploitation of black women. And Christelyn Karazin made a good point about how this is not just something that's in its past, it's something that goes on today. And I went to watch it for myself, and actually I saw it a while ago, ZaZa Ali's video where she's talking about how Tariq Nasheed promoted Hidden Colors by using a photograph of a bunch of women in bathing suits in a hot tub, scantily clad, grabbing each other, participating in, somewhat lesbian-like conduct. You can buy Hidden Colors. I mean, I think that that's trashy. I think that it's disrespectful of black women. And it's no surprise that this man is disrespectful towards black women. This is a man who was a self-professed pimp, a man who's written all these books about how to manipulate and mac women and all that kind of stuff. A man who has a program about relationships where he talks to women in a disrespectful way. So this whole idea of his misogyny is something that's not something in the past, it's something in the present. And you can't have black liberation without black women being liberated as well. You can't have black liberation while black women are being exploited, pimped, and macked and disrespected. Now, it's real important. That's a very important point that often gets neglected. Often people think that if you sprinkle some black power on something, then it'll be okay. That because you do something in the name of black power and pro-blackness, that somehow that makes it okay. Because you use pro-black rhetoric, then that makes it okay to mac, to pimp, to disrespect black women. And that's just wrong. That is like someone taking some sugar powder and sprinkling it on a piece of fecal matter and trying to tell you that that's a damn donut when we all know that that's a piece of dookie. That's what these people are like, that try to gloss over this sexism that is rampant just in society in general, but it's also a problem in this black conscious community among these so-called black conscious people. And, that's just something that needs to be dealt with. We have to deal with misogyny in our community, whether it's coming from so-called coons or whether it's coming from these pro-blacks. And it is not a coincidence that this man, Tariq Nasheed, had no problem working with Tommy Sotomayor, a man whose whole YouTube career is built on the back of black women. It's built on the degradation and the attacks on black women. That's no coincidence that these two guys would be cool, that these two guys would have no problem working together. So I just want to get that out the way. This misogyny issue must be dealt with. Also, during her video, Christelyn Karazin mentioned the fact that Tariq Nasheed has a biracial wife and a white mother-in-law. The fact that his wife is biracial is irrelevant. In this society, biracial people are viewed as black. No matter how they identify themselves, that's how society sees them. They see them as black. And as long as we live in this world, we're defined by how this society perceives us. That's how our lives are shaped. So you can have any idea in your head about how you're not black, but this society will constantly remind you that you are black through its treatment, through its oppression of all black people of different shades, whether they call themselves biracial or not. So as far as I'm concerned, that's irrelevant. If someone is biracial and they identify with black people, then they are black. So that's just a red herring. That's a non-issue. So the other point that Christelyn Karazin raised was just the issue of hypocrisy. She talked about how Tariq Nasheed seems to have a double standard when it comes to black men and black women. It seems as if he has no problem with interracial relationships when black men are in those relationships, but it seems like he has a problem when black women are in those relationships. And I think that some of the points that she made in that area are valid. Like there was no criticism of Kanye West for being involved in an interracial relationship. There's no criticism of Nate Parker for being involved in an interracial relationship. And I think that that's valid. So if someone's going to oppose interracial relationships, if someone's going to call someone a bed wench for being with a white man, then they should have the same level of condemnation and contempt for black men who are involved in those types of relationships. So that is a valid point that she raises there. But I also want to point out that there's a huge difference between a Nate Parker and someone like Christelyn Karazin. First of all, Nate Parker doesn't have a website promoting interracial relationships. He doesn't have a blog promoting interracial relationships. He doesn't get on social media and radio and television promoting and encouraging black men to date and marry white women. So that's a big distinction. He's not on those platforms attacking and disrespecting black women. He just isn't. Whereas someone like Christelyn Karazin, she has built her whole career off of interracial relationships, off of promoting interracial relationships, off of essentially worshiping the white man, elevating and celebrating the white man to the black man's detriment. While she elevates that white man, she denigrates, disrespects, and dismisses black men on a regular basis. When she mentions black men on her channel, it's usually in a negative light. She has referred to good black men as unicorns, meaning they are so rare and practically non-existent, like a mythical creature, the unicorn. So she uses that term to describe quote-unquote good black men. And then she has described black men as disgusting. She has described black men as the losing team. This woman has talked about how white men are more likely to pander to their women than black men are, to pamper their women than black men are. So this woman is disrespectful towards black men while she celebrates these white men. And it's evident. All you have to do is look at her channel. The majority of the men invited on her programs, on her hangouts, are white men. The majority of couples featured on her channel are white men with black women. So this is not a question of character over color. It's all about color over character. That's essentially what it is. It's a situation where white is over black. And, so that's despicable. And that's why people challenge her message harshly and fiercely. And I think that it's ridiculous to compare herself to Tariq Nasheed by saying swirling versus hidden colors. Because hidden colors, despite the criticisms that I've made about Tariq Nasheed in this video, his Hidden Colors series is a great tool to enlighten people about African American history, to give people a sense of their culture, their history, and the continuing problems that they face today. Many people would not know about many of these aspects of history if it wasn't for Tariq Nasheed. They wouldn't know, many of these people wouldn't know who Michelle Alexander is. They wouldn't know about Rashidi Runoko, the great African history scholar. They wouldn't know about these people if it wasn't for Tariq Nasheed. So for that reason, I respect that aspect of what he has done. That can't be compared to a movement that's based on destroying and undermining the black family by promoting these interracial relationships that destroy our cultural identity and undermine the black family. So those are my comments on this whole thing. I'll probably do a part 2 after I hear Tariq Nasheed's response to Christelyn Karazin, if he does a response. But if he doesn't do one, then this is it. So tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.